Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and a huge thank you to the organizers and KITP staff for bringing together such a wonderful community. I'm Suroor, and today I'll be telling you about work that I'm doing with my collaborators, Matt, Jordan, and Mike. And if you like CMB secondaries, please talk to Jordan. She's here at the conference and doing a lot of really cool stuff with kSZ and pSZ outside of this project. But today what I'll be telling you about is measuring cosmic bulk flows with kSZ velocity reconstruction. Bulk flow is the average of peculiar velocities in a given volume. And to begin, I want to build a rough picture of what this average bulk velocity looks like as a function of the size of the volume that we average over. So here's a very rough rendition of the largest structures in our galactic neighborhood, based on the 2-mass redshift survey. And of course, there's a lot more matter that I haven't drawn in my cartoon, which really generates a ubiquitous peculiar velocity field all around us. But the main point is that using our galactic neighborhood as an example, I can hypothesize what this bulk velocity should look like as a function of distance from the Milky Way. So for example, if I start by averaging over a small volume, say 15 megaparsecs, I might encompass the one single largest structure galaxy cluster in that small volume. All peculiar velocities are going to be dictated by that largest structure. They're going to coherently add and generate a large average bulk velocity. If I then average over a larger volume, I'll encompass multiple large structures pulling in opposing directions. Peculiar velocity vectors will start canceling out and generate a bulk velocity that is smaller and smaller as I go out averaging to larger and larger distances. And I can extrapolate this if I go all the way out to the rest frame of the CMB. If the universe is homogeneous and isotropic, there shouldn't be any preferred direction towards which things are moving on average. So this bulk velocity should approach a very small value. So this is a schematic of what a bulk flow plot looks like. Here's a more official version of the same kind of plot. The black curve is the lambda CDM expectation, and then there are all these other measurements that exist for bulk flow. Our goal is to populate this very kind of plot, but using kSZ velocity reconstruction. So what is kSZ velocity reconstruction? I know that there are experts in the room who've written the literature on this, and people have probably heard multiple iterations of this example, but for completeness, please bear with me. Let's say we're looking at a region of the sky and observing fields that vary on small scales. For example, the galaxy density field or the electron density field. And I am representing these small scale fluctuations with these small wiggles or this close cross-hatching and the superscript S. Now these small fluctuations are modulated by this long wavelength velocity field, this V with a superscript L. The kSZ effect ties these two kinds of fields together. It depends on the electron density field as well as the velocity field. So that when I take a cross correlation with galaxies, you get contributions from a term like that, where you can pull out the long wavelength velocity field from this small scale dominated average, and then rearrange this equation to extract the long wavelength velocity field. So by doing this kind of reconstruction procedure, you're leveraging the long wavelength modulation or statistical anisotropy of small scale fluctuations. And we make the case that kSZ can really expand the horizon for bulk flow measurements, especially because it is so effective on these large gigaparsec scales. The reason for that is because usually bulk velocity is measured using peculiar velocities that depend on distance. And distances are notoriously hard to measure in astronomy. And what ends up happening is that the error on the velocity as a result grows with the distance as you go farther and farther out. So on a plot like this, you can really see the dearth of measurements once you go beyond 100 megaparsecs. So this is where kSZ can really shine. It's a direct measurement of velocities. You don't need to worry about distances. The errors on the velocity come from well-understood sources, and crucially, they don't scale with distance. So we can really start to fill out this plot using kSZ velocity reconstruction. So why do we want to do this? Why do we want to measure bulk flow at gigaparsec scales? Well, because it's interesting, it has interesting implications for the cosmological principle. Homogeneity and isotropy really are cornerstones of the lambda CDM model. And I'll give an example which might be of interest to people of this anomaly between the CMB dipole and the number count dipole measurement. So what is this anomaly? From the CMB dipole, we can probe the velocity of the sun relative to the surface of last scattering of the CMB. And this is very well measured with Planck. It's about 370 kilometers per second. For the same reason as in the motion of the sun, we also expect to see a dipole in the number count of luminous distant sources, such as quasars. And this dipole is now probing the relative velocity between the motion of the sun and the motion and the shell where these distant sources lie. So using the Planck measurement, lambda CDM predicts that this dipole should have a velocity of about 350 kilometers per second. But what is observed, the number count dipole that is observed implies a velocity of about 700 kilometers per second. So it's twice as large as the theoretical expectation, and this is the anomaly. This anomalously large number count dipole implies that this shell of distant sources is moving in the opposite direction with a velocity of 330 kilometers per second. So 370 plus 330 gives you that 700. But this bulk motion of distant luminous sources is exactly the kind of thing that we can look for using kSZ velocity reconstruction at gigaparsec scales. So we go ahead and do that, and so through this process of reconstruction that I described, you get a map of velocities. You take the L equals 1 component of this map to get the bulk flow. And then we get to build our own version of the bulk flow plot that I have been showing. On this plot, the black curve is the lambda CDM expectation again. And we have 1 sigma upper limits from kSZ using 6 redshift bins of galaxies. So the upper limits are where these inverted triangles are. And then these colored bands that you see around them come from the uncertainty that arises due to this optical depth bias parameter, BV. And the reason I say they're preliminary is because right now the analysis is with an uninformed prior on BV, but we're trying to improve that using data-informed priors. And just by hand, I've put in a comparison of this 330 kilometers per second velocity implied by number count, by the number count dipole measurement. And just to make the point that we're not seeing this kind of excess bulk flow at these gigaparsec scales, especially if you compare to our unwise blue upper limit. Another thing that we can do with our analysis is to get upper limits on the matter power spectrum at low K. And here also I'll highlight our unwise blue upper limit because it's a low redshift upper limit and it's pretty tight and it's at low K. So just for context, I've pulled this plot from the literature that shows all the different measurements of the matter power spectrum. And at low K, I just want to point out that all the measurements come from Planck, which is probing redshift of 1100. So there aren't any low redshift tracers that are placing constraints on these low values of K. But our unwise blue upper limit is using a median redshift of 0.6 sample, and we're able to get an upper limit on these low values of K. And just to say that we're not seeing anything weird emerge, we're seeing things that are consistent with lambda CDM. So that is what I had. Just to summarize, we really think that kSZ velocity reconstruction can add to this existing landscape of bulk flow measurements. We can go beyond the 100 megaparsec or so regime that we've been limited to so far. We're not seeing evidence of anomalously large bulk flows. We're not seeing anything weird in the matter power spectrum from low redshift tracers at low K values. And just stay tuned. We are improving our optical depth bias parameter, uncertainties that come from that. And also the direction of the velocity might be interesting to say something about, say something a little more informed about this dipole anomaly as well. Yeah, and just we'll have more data. We'll be able to explain, improve things on both large and small scales with that, and do interesting things. So yeah, I'll stop there.
All right, thanks, Seher, for a very interesting talk. Questions for Seher?
Hey, thank you. Very nice. So what's the difference between the unwise blue and the red and green that you had in your plots, and why the results are so different?
Yeah, they probe different redshifts. So Alex Krolewski, sitting right behind you, knows a lot about these samples. But yeah, so they have different median redshifts. I think the median redshift of blue is 0.6, and then red, which is the farthest one, has 1.1. They also have different numbers of galaxies. I think blue has the most number of galaxies, so that's why we get like the tightest upper limits from blue. But as you go farther out and you have fewer galaxies, your limits become weaker.
Thank you.
Very nice, congratulations. One curiosity, do you have indications of the direction of the dipole that you recover? How is it far from the CMB dipole?
Yeah, I think we haven't done that yet, but also the other thing I'll say maybe is that we have upper limits. We don't, so our maps are consistent with noise, so it's not quite easy to say something about the direction that we are seeing. I don't know how informative that would be.
Okay. The other small thing is you show the expectation from lambda CDM, right? That's the mean value, meaning that since we have only one event, which is the bulk flow around us, which is what we are measuring, in principle, we should draw a sort of band of,
That's true. Yeah, I mean, just for clarity, I labeled the y-axis to be V bulk, but it's actually sigma V, so it is like the 1 sigma. But yeah, you're right. There is uncertainty around that line. That's not, yeah. Yes.
That's my question. So on the in progress part, I'm curious to explore the notion of this data-informed optical depth variation bias. Since I'm trying to understand to what extent this measurement is completely independent from the number counts measurement, in a way that if there's a dipole in the galaxy number counts, then potentially that would infer that there's a variation of the optical depth at that large scale on these two different directions. So, so to what extent this kSZ measurement, since it's responding to both the optical depth times velocity, is independent from the galaxy count measurement?
Yeah, that's a connection I don't think I have made or thought about, but that's a, yeah, I should think about that. Our optical depth bias uncertainties are coming from how well the gas follows the dark matter in galaxies. So we haven't thought about number count variation in the optical depth bias, like a variation in the optical depth bias coming from the number count.
Right.
Yeah, but I'd
I'm
be happy
just
to
throwing out as
talk
a
more.
question.
Yeah. Thank you for making that point.
Okay, if there are more questions, let's thanks for a very interesting talk.